Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a great day so far. I'm going to ask you a question, and we'll get back to the answer a little later. Are your docs good? Whether your current docs are a README, a few Markdown files, a Discord server, a changelog, the code itself, an entire website, or nothing at all, they can always get better. Now, I can tell you from experience that that statement can feel honestly overwhelming. What? Am I never done? But I'm here to tell you it's a comforting fact that docs are never done. So don't expect them to be. You'll never get there. I will never get there. You can't get there, so you don't have to worry about getting there. With docs, you cannot, must not let the perfect be the enemy of the good enough, or the not worse than what we had before. My name is Sarah, and I'm the docs lead at Astro. And I hope in just a few minutes' time, you'll see how achievable better docs are, even without a technical writer, a team of volunteers, writing experience, or a whole lot of time. Whether you're crafting your very first README, adding the change set for your next PR, preparing a guide for a new feature, or starting to think about redesigning your entire documentation site, I'm going to make your docs better. I'm going to make you a better, more confident doc maintainer without doing much writing at all. So why do projects have documentation? Why do you have documentation if you do? You might have said to document an API or to show how to use a feature or to explain what the project is. I would argue the sole purpose of documentation, the only reason it exists, is to help. Internal docs help with cross-team collaboration and onboarding. External docs help people understand, evaluate, and use your project. Open source docs help people contribute to your project. Documentation even helps you as you're building, making notes, making decisions, learning, and leaving notes for yourself. Documentation is a source of truth. Docs is support. Docs is record keeping. Docs is even marketing, promotion, and community building. But ultimately, docs exist to help. So remember when I asked in the beginning, are your docs good? How did that question make you feel? Was that even an easy question to answer? What if I ask instead, are your docs helpful? For many people, I think that second question feels different. Changing the question you ask will immediately put you on the path to better docs, more helpful docs. And notice that we've also changed the task of making docs from a writing task to a helping task. And you are the foremost expert on your project or feature. So you are the best person to help. Are your docs helpful? So how do we answer this question? Well, we begin to answer it by understanding it's really a collection of questions that all start with the phrase, is this helping someone? Get started with my project. Figure out what my project is or does. Evaluate whether it's right for their needs so you get the right users in the first place. Solve a problem they have. Troubleshoot something that's not working as expected. Avoid common pitfalls. Keep up with the latest changes. Evaluating whether your docs are helpful to someone for something will get you further faster than any other single docs intervention. So your docs can only be helpful to someone, and that someone is a person. They have needs, wants, desires, hopes, dreams. They're in a particular mood. They have context. They have goals and a purpose, motivations and expectations. They have a certain experience level with code, the industry, your project. And they have varying language proficiencies, prior experience, pre or misconceptions. And they only have limited attention, patience, time, energy, and resources like internet speed or hardware. Your docs also need to help someone do something. Learn, conceptualize, evaluate, achieve, build, fix, test, upgrade, improve, experiment, convince themselves or someone else, solve a business problem or a technical challenge. But ultimately, docs should be helpful at getting people out of docs and back into using your project, back into their project. So let's go ahead and talk about two characteristics of helpful documentation: clear and correct. If your docs are wrong, they are not helpful. If your docs are factually wrong, if they're misleading, if they're outdated, if they're technically correct, but so confusing you'd never know it, they are not correct. They are wrong. Now, when I say correct, I don't mean complete or comprehensive. We're going to keep all these C words straight, right? Um, you may be missing some key docs, but if you have open source docs or a way for people to contribute or leave feedback, you can find out what's actually important to your readers. So you can actually get away with less than you might think. Don't allow clutter in your docs. Use clear, simple language because no one ever complained, gee, these docs, they're just too easy to read. You might also find that you have some existing documentation that isn't really helping anyone do anything. Instead, it's more words on the screen, making it harder for your readers to see the truly helpful content. So let's get actionable. Action items. Read every statement in your docs for accuracy. Or if you're starting fresh, only write true statements. Go through each part of your docs and identify who this helps and what this helps them do. And we're going to delete, not write. Less is more, both in content and in style. Don't add or keep extra content that hides the good stuff. No documentation means I go look somewhere else for information. Incorrect documentation means I waste my time in your docs. Incorrect docs reduce credibility. They make people frustrated enough to stop using your project and choose another. If your users can't be successful, they do not use your project. They don't spread word of mouth, at least not the good kind, and they don't create things themselves that showcase your project. And they don't contribute back and improve your project. So basically, all I've said is that every line in your docs must be true and clearly true. I think that's a bar you can hit. If it's not clear and correct, delete it. I'm giving you permission. It wasn't helping you anyway. It was frustrating people trying to use your project and not doing you any favors. If you're worried you might have deleted something important, it's fine. It's the internet. Someone will tell you. So congratulations, you've made your docs better and you haven't even written a single thing. We're going to take things one step further and make your docs even more helpful. Navigable and discoverable. Can people move around your documentation and find what they need? Are things where people expect to look? If they first look in the wrong spot, can they easily get to the right spot? This is information architecture, and we could get into things like signposts and escape hatches and off-ramps and guardrails. These are all the structures we add to our documentation to help people quickly and easily situate themselves and move around. When someone lands in your docs, can they get where they need to go before they lose hope? And remember, a lot of people will enter your documentation from a web search and not necessarily on page one. So every page you have needs to pull its own weight. This is not just a task for a landing page. The good news, though, if there's only one page, your reader can't be on the wrong page. And I'm serious. If you don't know how to structure your content yet, there is nothing wrong with one huge README to start. Even if your reader needs to scroll around, at least they will know they're on the right page. And good news, Control F works for everyone. If the only reason docs exist is to be helpful to someone trying to do something, then one first step in organizing your content is thinking about what your reader needs help doing and making sure you can direct them to the material that actually helps them. And maybe more importantly, don't put them on the wrong path. For example, if they are coming to quickly look up a reference value, like a property name or a config option, make sure they don't get stuck in your beginner tutorial. If they want to learn about what your project is and what need it solves, don't make them get stuck in implementation details. Here's where a framework like Diataxis comes in. By identifying parts of your documentation by content type and reader goal, you can logically group sections of your docs and better focus your content. But the key thing is, if someone is not reading your docs like a book, top to bottom, first page to last page, do you have a plan for how they will find your clear and correct information? So here are some action items. Go to literally any point in your documentation and imagine you're a reader who's not in the right place. Can you find your way out or around? Think about how your docs could direct someone to the right place quickly and accurately. Is this solved by a table of contents, a search widget, a how to read these docs page, an internal link, not what you're looking for, UI component? If you have multiple pages or files, do their titles accurately represent the page content? And once you're on that page, does your content live under the section heading you'd expect? Your clear and correct information is only helpful if someone can find it. So at this point, I basically said, don't lie, delete any lies, and don't hide stuff. I'm pretty sure this is still an achievable goal. If every statement in your docs is true and people can find, read, and understand what it means, congratulations, you have minimum viable docs. If you have to, you can stop now. But of course, there are some characteristics of well-written docs, and there are some common writing anti-patterns. There is no shortage of talks on how to write good documentation that go into these specifics, and I do recommend checking out some great ones if you want to get better at writing. But all that advice can quickly get overwhelming, and we already know that writing is secondary to helping. When you encounter all these rules, it might feel like there's a scary docs police waiting to criticize you. But instead of being afraid you might do a don't, think of these things as things you don't have to worry about. These are things not to do because they are not your job as a helper. These don'ts actually remove pressure and responsibility, and they are guardrails to keep you focused on a productive path towards helping. So you may have seen this social media post. I absolutely love it. It's my pinned post. Thank you, Ben. because it perfectly demonstrates everything we've been talking about here. This is a screenshot from a PR review. The original content submitted was, installing Bun is a breeze. Just run one simple command in your terminal and you're ready to go. Plus, with support for NPX packages, creating a new Astro project with Bun is as easy as pie. And my suggested change was, use the following command to install Bun. And then a little comment, boo, Sarah's boring. It's clear and correct. If you are looking for the command to install Bun, these are the words you will search for. It introduces exactly what's coming next, and it's not hidden in a bunch of other words. Now, this edit is not me saying bad author, bad docs. This edit is me freeing that PR submitter from the responsibility to write something clever, motivate the reader, get all that punctuation correct in these longer multi-clause sentences. There are 10 times as many words to proofread and spell check, and then this thing's gonna have to get translated. My edit reminds you to focus on helping instead of writing. And I'll share 2 quick, common, easy to remember don'ts that are gonna take your docs to the next level. Don't use we when addressing the reader, because you are not sitting there with your potentially frustrated reader. And I have known more than one docs reader to shout at the screen, we are not having this problem, I am. This frees you in part from the extra writing work of checking that all your we, us, our, let's agree. You know what's super easy to check? You and your. But it's even more than that. Using you also naturally puts the emphasis on your reader and what they are doing. It guides you to think about helping them. What might their setup look like? Instead of writing our, which can trick you into thinking about your own context or situation that your reader might not share. And often these instructions work without any you at all and become even clearer. And we'll see that next. Don't use should in your instructions. Should implies uncertainty, and your readers are looking to you for what to do and what will happen. If your reader must do something, just say that. Yeah, maybe it sounds like something I just made up, but I guarantee you, you are freeing yourself from feedback from confused readers. You should create a new folder for your blog posts. Do I have to? What happens if I don't? And how bad is that? What else could I do instead? Not only do your sentences get clearer, but your reader stays focused on the task at hand without any doubt. Create a new folder for your blog posts. I am giving you permission to avoid writing and just tell someone directly what to do, even when other options are possible. This frees you from the responsibility of describing every possible path the reader could take when you, the expert in your project, already has a recommendation and knows the happy path. You can help them down it. Don't write, just help. Some more action items, but here is don't stress out about the writing rules. Instead, embrace them as telling you things that are not your responsibility. Pick 1 or 2 rules, or just read through the docs looking for things that aren't your responsibility and remove them. Jokes and stories, words, most of them. And don't include everything you know or could possibly think of, because not everything that is true belongs in docs. In conclusion, think of yourself as a helper, someone who just happens to be helping in writing. Helpers don't need to entertain or write beautiful stories. They need to make clear, correct information available, ideally in a way that readers can discover and navigate it. And the best help is contextual. It is for someone who is trying to do something specific. This person may not be in the greatest state to receive help, but they are in your docs because they need it. So don't overwhelm them. Less is always more. You can probably improve your docs right now by deleting, not writing. Delete words like should, delete outdated or unmaintained docs, even if you can't yet replace them. Delete entire pages if you're worried that people won't find them, and put everything on one page if you need to. You can have great docs even if you aren't a great writer, because in many cases, maybe even most of the time, the less you write, the more you help. Thank you so much, Frontend Nation, for having me, and to all of you for spending this time with me. And I hope you enjoy the rest of this amazing conference.
Hey, Sarah, thanks so much for that wonderful talk. First off, I do have to ask, did you take all the pictures in your presentation yourself of the birds?
Yes, I
did. I love that. That's a wonderful hobby. All right, Sarah. So we have a few questions here today, and I'm going to start out by asking, docs are great, but how can you convince company leadership to dedicate more resources to writing them?
Well, so docs, it's a great question, and not everyone is going to buy in, but understanding what docs do for support, for community building, for marketing, for SEO. Some of your projects, docs will be the things that are picked up by search engines. There is so much value in people being able to use your product or your projects. You alleviate other departments like supports. Those are my reasons for doing it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's I come from a Laravel background a little bit, and that's one thing people always say about Laravel, right? Docs are so great. All right. So next question is, what are some examples of documentation that you think are extremely well done?
Well, there are some really common examples out there. Everyone knows that the Stripe documentation is super well done. The Rust documentation is super well done. I would bet that wherever you don't hear people complaining when a new feature is released, that's probably a sign that they've got good docs. If you hear, I don't know how to use this, that's a documentation problem.
Nice. All right. Great answer. Thank you, Sarah. So a couple more questions for you here. What would you consider some low-hanging fruit that devs could start using to improve docs immediately?
So there are a few things, and it depends which situation you're in. It depends if maybe you're a lone little open source project maintainer, if you are writing docs as part of your features with part of a company. One thing you can do if you have anyone working on documentation, you can ask for your company. So this is a bit larger. You can ask the documentation people what their pain points are when receiving either documentation or in documenting your features. They will know. I really do think low-hanging fruit is clearing the clutter. It's a huge deal. Your sentences should be shorter, should be direct. There are some documentation examples that restrict English usage to about 3,000 words so that your words never get too long. You're not using jargon. They're easy to translate. They're easily read by people with varying proficiencies in English. Shorter, direct sentences. Sometimes people think it's being rude. Nope. If you've got instructions, tell people what to do. Cut the clutter.
Love that.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like ChatGPT wrote your docs, right? It's awesome.
Exactly. Exactly. You can also put yourself in a position, you can read other people's docs. Like, what were you thinking the last time you read someone's docs trying to figure something out? Did you appreciate these little jokes while you were like super stressed and you just wanted to get to the point? Simple's always better, and you can always add after that.
Awesome. Love that, Sarah. All right, last question. How do you measure the effectiveness of your documentation? What's a good measure?
So this is a really interesting question because you can't use traditional measures of effectiveness like web traffic or time spent on your site, because in some ways you don't want people spending time in your site too long. That can be a sign that your project's difficult to use or your docs take people a while to get through. Yeah, so one measure we use is we are constantly checking in our support forums. We even instruct our support squad, when you go to answer someone's question, your first instinct should be to drop a link to docs.
Nice.
What that does is that tells us if we're missing something. Do we have enough? Can we cover that topic? Now, some people's support questions are going to be super niche, and that's not always relevant, but they're always asking about a topic or something. And what we do is we work really closely with our support squad at Astro to make sure that we have documentation that covers what people are asking for, and they can feed back. Hey, I was just in this thread, realize we don't have anything about this, or realize this is outdated, this could be improved. And bonus, because Astro is such a community contributing environment, instead of me going to fix the docs, often it's, hey, you're right, that is outdated. Would you like to make a PR? And sometimes that's people's first PR to open source, and then they start contributing and they feel involved and a part of the project. And that is one real way how docs can be community building as well. So we get everyone in our community on board evaluating our docs, because that's who it has to work for. So they can tell us if it's effective, and if it's not, then we can all work together to improve it.
That's wonderful. So, I mean, a big takeaway I'm hearing there is you want your docs team and your support team to be buddy buddy, right? You want that to be a good relationship.
Yes, absolutely. They are the people answering support questions are the ones who know what's happening right on the ground with these confused users, right? They could be confused reading the docs. I don't get that feedback. I don't get it until they're asking a support question.
Amazing. Well, thank you so very much for your time and your expertise today, Sarah. We really enjoyed having you.
Thank you so much.